socially distanced full house in the Brock Recital Hall. Welcome to this significant event this morning, sponsored and presented through our Office of Diversity and Intercultural Initiatives and the Mann Center for Ethics and Leadership and the Office of the President at Samford. And I am grateful to all concerned for your efforts to envision and to plan this program, and especially to Dr. Denise Gregory, our Assistant Provost for Diversity and Intercultural Initiatives, for having the idea to bring together three outstanding women who are providing strong leadership for three cherished Alabama institutions. And we are also honored to welcome the guests of our honorees who are here today. And might I ask those guests to stand and receive our applause? Would you please stand? Will you bow with me now as we begin this session with prayer? Father, we thank you for our time together this morning and for the opportunity to celebrate the extraordinary and long-lasting impact of these friends. Guide their steps, Father. Keep them faithful. Keep them strong. Keep them sensitive to the needs of those in their paths. Keep them safe. Keep them focused. We ask these things in the name of Jesus, our Savior. Amen. To preserve as much time as possible for questions today, let's move quickly to brief introductions of our guests. Absent today, but much appreciated, is our colleague, President Lily McNair from Tuskegee University. Dr. McNair is on a leave of absence for health concerns, and we pray today for her speedy recovery. She is the 8th president of Tuskegee and the first woman to serve in that role. President McNair has had an amazing academic career with degrees from Princeton University and the State University of New York at Stony Brook. She is a clinical psychologist with a varied background and numerous awards from within and outside the arena of higher education. Prior to coming to Tuskegee, she was provost and senior vice president for academic affairs at Wagner College in New York. Joining us on the stage today are President Bobby Knight of Miles College and President Cynthia Warwick of Stillman College. President Knight was elected in 2019 as the 15th president and first woman to lead Miles College. Her service throughout the Birmingham area is legendary. She retired in 2016 from Alabama Power after a career in executive leadership that included the positions of Vice President of the Birmingham Division, which is Alabama Power's largest division, Vice President of Public Relations, and General Manager of the Supply Chain. President Knight's many awards are too numerous to mention here, but she has been honored by the University of Alabama, the Birmingham chapter of the NAACP, the Birmingham News and AL.com, and the NCCJ. Her undergraduate degree is from the University of Alabama, and her Juris Doctorate is from the Birmingham School of Law. She is also a graduate of Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management Executive Leadership Program. President Cynthia Warwick is the 7th president and first woman, and perhaps that first woman phrase is becoming a regular refrain in these introductions today, to lead Stillman College. Her PhD is from George Mason University in Environmental Science and Policy. In addition, she holds a master's degree in public policy from Georgia Tech and a bachelor's degree in pharmacy from Howard University. President Warwick has more than 20 years of leadership experience in higher education, including positions at the University of Texas, Houston Health Science Center, Texas Southern University, Florida A&M University, and Elizabeth City State University. She has served previously as interim president at both Grambling University and South Carolina State University. Would you please join me in applauding our special guests for the morning, Presidents Knight and Warwick, and welcome to Samford. And now, ladies, let's talk, okay? And I'll tell you in advance, I've given some questions that I may ask, or I may ask others. We'll see. And we have agreed that we're going to be as informal as we can be on a stage in a room like this with many dignitaries in our midst. But ladies, again, thanks so much for being here today. I guess first question, and we'll just have fun with these as much as we can. College presidents love to talk about their institutions. And so I thought maybe the first thing we ought to do is to do that. And so, Cynthia, would you like to go first and tell us about Stillman?
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I guess in December 2016, when I first arrived to interview at the campus, I had never been to Tuscaloosa or Stillman, and I was pleasantly surprised because it's a beautiful 105 acres with these huge magnolia trees everywhere, and the magnolia is our seal, our symbol. So it's a very nice place. It's a Presbyterian school. It was founded by the pastor of First Presbyterian Church in Tuscaloosa in a time when it just wasn't very popular to educate black folks in Alabama. And so I kind of like to say that Reverend Dr. Charles Stillman knew Black Lives Matter way back in 1876. And just a great environment. You know, our religious department, certainly we were founded to educate black ministers, and I would say our religion department is number one in doing that, and our whole entire student population, because they all take 12 hours of religious education. So we have an environment, a really great spiritual environment. Certainly our newest programs are in cybersecurity and biomedical science. So, you know, my first degree's in pharmacy, and you have a pharmacy school here. And we were going to be very deliberate about producing more health scientists, pharmacists, doctors, and other health professions, as well as the other legal professions and everything. So that's a little bit about Stillman.
Excellent. Thank you. Bobby?
Thank you so much. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I have to tell you, I'm honored and humbled that you are recognizing us. And we have this women's presidents, what do we call ourselves? Sister presidents, and we have enjoyed getting to know each other. So Miles College was founded in 1898 by the CME Church, Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. So there's a long history, much the same as Stillman, founded to educate African Americans, black people at the time, but has always had doors open to anyone who wanted to attend. When they called me about coming to Miles, I was on the trustee board, and when they asked me to be interim, I thought they were nuts. I said, you know, why me? And knowing they did not bring me there for academic reasons, because I don't know academics, but I know enough to bring in the best. And so I went and got Dr. Geraldine Agee and brought her in to help me on the academic side, and she's been fabulous. So, you know, a year ago, this week, was it Monday, Tuesday? I don't know. On the 5th was my first full year as permanent president. And it's been a year, and we'll talk about that, I guess. But Miles has, what I found in going there is that we have a very rich history. We have we're a Center for Excellence for the CIA. We have a very strong STEM program, which we are growing. We have added majors since Dr. Agee has been there, and minors, and we are continuing to grow. We actually came out here and visited you with your sports marketing folks, and we're looking at adding some courses around sports marketing. So we're growing. We're small, but we're mighty.
You know, ladies, I believe everything you just said except Bobby. I think that you know more about academics than you're letting on here. And in retirement, I may come over and and just enroll in some courses at your colleges. Okay, I'm going to have
Come and
free
teach.
time.
How about come and teach something?
But
said he's
I don't know much
retiring.
about academics, so we'll have to do something else. Okay. You noticed in the bios, I talked about each of you, but I didn't go into excruciating detail. What we want to know now is about the early influences in your lives. What over the years made you the women that you are, and help us to understand. And Bobby, if you want to go first on that one.
Sure, thank you for that question. I was very, very blessed to have the mother that I had. And my mother, at a very early age, taught me and my sister, who was 22 months older, that we would never have to depend on a man. That's not to blame men for anything or slam you guys, but she wanted us to take care of ourselves and not have to be dependent. And so one of the ways to do that was to get an education. So getting an education was not an option for us. We had to go to college. My older brothers, they could or they could not, but we were going, and we did. And she was always very supportive. My mother was extraordinary. She could do absolutely anything. And I wish if I was half the woman my mother was, I'd be fantastic. But she was extraordinary. But I was blessed to be surrounded by a village of women, strong women who nurtured us and looked after us, but their expectations of us were very, very high.
That sort of thing really puts the pressure on you to live that out.
Yep.
In your current assignment, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Cynthia?
Yeah, well, I'm from San Antonio, Texas, so I'm one of those proud and spoiled Texans, I would say. And I guess the greatest influence in my life has been both my parents, my mother, but my dad. And I would say this because everybody's like asking me, you should write a book about your experiences. And when I think about who I am and why I do the things the way I do them, it's all about my dad because he was very close friends with LBJ. He was in politics, and so we were always in the community doing community service as children growing up. So it was really a big part of our lives. And I remember when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. I was in 5th grade. And the day before, I had gone to the shopping center to help my mom pick out a dress for the ball that they were going to in Austin. And so, so those kinds of things made me think about where my position would be in the world and how I can serve. And, and those are expectations that if my dad, and he pushed me, and I was the oldest, so I was really the first boy, that was a girl. But it really, I just wish he were here today to see what I've become because of him.
Well, I know that your families are proud of each of you, and I'm grateful to them for the influence that they have had on your lives. Those of us who are the presidents of smaller independent colleges and universities, it seems that we are constantly having to make the case for relevance. I find myself doing that a good bit, and I know that each of you do as well. But each of you face the additional challenge of a question that I'm sure that you get asked a lot, you and your colleagues, especially at historically black colleges and universities. But how do you answer that question today with everything that has changed over the years? Why are historically black colleges and universities still relevant today? And Cynthia, you want to go first with that one?
Well, if they're not, then I'm not relevant because I attended Howard University. My dad went to Prairie View. My mom went to West Virginia State. I guess when you think about all of my children went to FAMU, just about all of our family members attended HBCUs. And I will tell you that the difference that it makes is you can be and aspire to whatever you want to be. You have that freedom to be yourself. and in an environment that's going to be supportive and nurturing, but also able to get the leadership development that you need, when you're in college. And I thought that was really critical for me. The other thing that HBCUs provide is that network of other HBCU graduates. And we have such a rich network. I mean, I know people all over the world. In pharmacy school, my class was 50% international. Most of the students were from Nigeria and other places in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, and South America. I had classmates all over the world. So HBCUs are open to everybody, but they provide you with an environment that allows you, free from any kind of racism or discrimination, free from that in your life in those 4 to 5 years, that you can truly develop into who you want to be. So I just think you're empowered to be your best.
I'd like to put a little different spin on it and talk about the leadership that is born from HBCUs. And I think one look no further than the Vice President of the United States, who graduated from an HBCU. But HBCUs teach leaders. They create leaders. That's one of the things, the environment that Dr. Warwick talked about is one that is really conducive for the whole student becoming ingrained and understanding who they are and how they can take their place in the world. But when you look at the statistics, you see that the majority of our African-American doctors went to, I believe I'm right on this, Michael Johnson, but graduated, okay, he tells me, yes, I am, from an HBCU undergrad and perhaps even medical school. I'm not sure about that number, but a lot of your professionals, even those that have gone on to get advanced degrees, many people in this room went to HBCUs, and that's where they got their start. I didn't go to an HBCU. I wish I had. I feel like I'm getting that experience now, but yes, the relevancy question needs to be put to bed because it doesn't apply anymore. It just doesn't.
I agree, and I think that society actually has a greater appreciation for historically black colleges and universities now than perhaps 10 years ago. And you each did a great job. Experience is a good teacher. I'm sure you've had to answer that sort of thing many times, but thank you for those responses. Okay, moving a little bit more nearly into the current realm with COVID and the like. And we don't want to talk about that too much. This is not a session about COVID, but we all have learned some important lessons, especially over the last year. You can go more broadly than this if you'd wish, but what is perhaps the most important lesson that you've learned so far as a college president, COVID or not?
Okay, you're looking at me.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you choose which would
Okay.
go first with that one.
So the most important lesson I've learned during this pandemic is really how much we mean to each other, we as human beings and as people. And there is, I know I have felt this lack of an ability to see my grandkids or my sister or my brother, losing family members. All of this is that we are so connected to each other, and to not have that connection has been unbearable for a lot of people. And when I think about what it means for me, I realize how much more of an impact that has on my students, and how we have to really care for them and for their psychological, their physical, everything that they deal with. We have to really be concerned about it, because when I know it bothers me, it has to bother them.
I think I've learned more flexibility. That we have to be able to allow people the time and the freedom to adjust. It's certainly very challenging for everyone, especially the students, the faculty, everybody. And certainly we know that all of the things we've had to change in how we do business won't revert to where we were before. Some of these changes we're going to adopt and they will continue on. Others we'll be glad to get rid of, eventually masks. But, you know, one of my colleagues sent me a picture of Michael Jackson saying he knew this was coming. You know, I guess it'll be a way that we'll start seeing, I guess, a transition of, you know, this state we're in. But I'm very optimistic about the vaccine and hope that Stillman will be a vaccine site so that we could really be able to serve our community with the disparities in terms of vaccines getting to African Americans and low-income communities. We need our HBCUs that are in our community to be those sites where our community can come and trust that they're going to be treated fairly and get the vaccination they need to really prevent any additional harm or hospitalization or mortality. So it's certainly hard. It's not easy, and I just want to applaud my leadership team for really managing this pandemic very well. They've done a great job.
Great insights from each of you about that, the significance of connectedness, the need for flexibility. I have found in our case that so many around me want certainty from me so often. And there are times when I feel that I failed them because I can't provide that degree of certainty. But we I think have learned lessons in flexibility. We may soon forget. I hope not. I think that they'll serve us in good stead if we can remember. The greatest challenge. What's the greatest challenge that you have faced so far in college presidency, except COVID? That one's off the table. Cynthia?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge being a president is the faculty and staff. I'm very student focused and trying to get them to understand that it's not about you, it's about the kids is something that I have to do on a daily basis, and certainly changing the culture to understand that is really my biggest challenge, and certainly, you know, I think that's what makes us better when we're focused on what's in the best interests of our students. And so I treat them like they're my kids, you know, tough love, and I just wish I could get the faculty and staff to think about them that same way.
Maybe a little tough love with faculty and staff too, right?
I do that too. It's just they don't take to it as well.
Bobby, what about you?
So I'm going to fist bump you on that one because I like that response. I guess, God, this is a tough one. So I look at this college experience through a different lens, and I look at it as a business. I'm very, very fortunate to have a CFO who is sitting in here today, who is a graduate of your graduate program, MBA, I think, here at Samford. But I'm fortunate to have someone who understands numbers, and that numbers matter, and that numbers drive you. And so, you know, when you're in business, you focus on metrics all the time. And so I'm fortunate to have her because she is very metric focused. but everybody else is not. And so, you know, they think there's this endless supply of funds and that sort of thing. So trying to really get people to understand that we don't have deep pockets, and it's everyone's job to bring students in, but the students are our customers. I see them as the customer, and everything we do ought be to create an experience for them that is one that's long-lasting, that they will never forget being at Miles College. And so, well, you know, I have a great cabinet that's on board, but you know, sometimes it just doesn't trickle down as much. But anyway, that's been the major challenge, I think.
I understand, and I've said that it seems to me that colleges and universities are institutions that attempt to mimic standard business practices. It's not that we that we all fully understand all of that, but we know that somewhere numbers make a difference. Thanks for those responses. And I'm asked all the time still, after years of doing this, so what is it that a college president does? And I find my answer kind of varies from day to day. Yeah. Would each of you please respond to that question? Bobby, you want to go first with it?
I'll go first because I promise you I had no freaking idea what I was going to be doing as president of Miles College. It was like, you know, had it not been for the chief of staff, Mr. Coachman took me, and he's here, there he is over there. Mr. Coachman took me around, so I was supposed to be having these meetings with the person I was replacing, but you know, when you leave a job, you go, you know, and you're not focused on that, you know, what you left behind. And so I didn't get that. And it was really like, okay, I'm figuring this out as I go. And every day there's been something new and different. Every day it's like, oh my God, do I want to do this for long term? No. It has been extraordinarily different for me. However, what I can tell you is this. I fell in love with the students, and I wouldn't change a thing. It is, although I was happy in retirement, this is not even like work. It is work, and it's hard work, but it's so rewarding to be able to make a difference in the lives of these students and in this college campus. So I still don't really know what I'm doing. I guess, you know, when we get ready for the board meetings, then I say, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, we've done this, we've accomplished that. But I see it as really moving the institution forward, and whatever it takes to do that, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, what do presidents do? We do it all. Every job on the campus we do, because we set the vision and have to be the model of the behavior that you want to see. And so we recruit, we teach, we mentor, we budget, we hire and fire. We do it all in order to demonstrate to the students, the faculty, staff, everyone, the community, that, you know, we are relevant, and that what we do is important, very important, especially in, you know, our community, in Alabama, in the nation. What college presidents do is so important because we are that critical place that determines careers, it determines people's futures. They meet their husbands and wives at college, you know, it's just so much that happens, and we're the leader of all that, and so we just have to be very sensitive about making sure we are modeling that positive behavior that we want everybody on the campus to assume.
It requires us to fire on all cylinders all the time,
Yeah.
doesn't it? And it's very tiring. And I know that each of you are very student-oriented, student-centered presidents. And I imagine that in comparison with the rest of your jobs, that part may be the easiest for you because it's so natural for you. And I'm guessing you may have the same experience that I do, that I'll be in a meeting that lasts for 2 hours, or worse, on a Zoom call that lasts for 2 hours, and I'm hopeless. And so I just get out and walk around campus and have a few conversations with students, and within a few minutes I've forgotten about whatever it was that was bothering me. And I just sense that you all are exactly that way. And I know your students respond to that, which does give us great fulfillment in the work that we're called to do. You all, in addition to all the work that you do on your campuses, you're both known for being leaders in the community. And you each received significant awards for all of that. You spent many years kind of building that record of service beyond the gates of the campus. How do you do that? How do you balance all the stuff you got to do with your day job with those things that you do to otherwise support the community? And I can't remember who's going. Well, I've lost my focus. Okay, there we go, Cynthia.
Well, it goes back to why we're here today. We're women, and that's what we're socialized to do. I mean, as a child, we're socialized to multitask, do all the things, and serve others as we're growing up, in the family. And so those expectations, that training in our households as women, I think it makes us great time managers, and we able to prioritize because we know what's important. So I think it's just what women do, and we just do it. It's not like we're thinking about planning it out. It's just that it's a natural result of the programming that we've gotten as we've grown through, childhood, then, matriculating through grade school and high school and college and jobs and everything else, because, both me and Bobby, this is not our first. Right. We've been the first in everything. She was probably one of the only in her classes at UA, I bet. There were very few people then. I was the only, like in high school, and I was, president of this, the first, that. I mean, so we're so accustomed to it that we know it's important work, and we just do the work. Now, I do like to take vacations because I get real testy when I'm tired. So my folks can attest to that. I just, when I start getting short with people, I was like, okay, it's time to go. And, and that's what I have problems with through COVID, trying to fit in some downtime because this period is really demanding.
Yeah, we haven't. Let's see, we've been going nonstop since January of last year. And I am proud to say my husband and I are both twice vaccinated, and I made airline reservations for Miami. We're going to Miami Beach the day after tax day. And I am so looking forward to that. And y'all cannot find me. I'm not going to even tell them where I'm staying. So, there's this old saying that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And so, in the corporation that I grew up in, Alabama Power Company, that's sort of a philosophy, is that you've got to be out there. And if you're not out there, then somebody's telling a narrative that's not the narrative you want to be out there. You want to be able to influence things. You want to show that you're making a positive impact in the communities that you serve. And that role for me has not changed. I want to be, as long as I am out there, Miles College is out there. And that's, when I go now, I don't even like to talk about my work with Alabama Power Company anymore because I work for these students. I work for Miles College, and I serve Miles College. And so when I'm there doing something, I am representing the school, and that I'll do it, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day if I have to.
The short version of what you all just said is that you've been doing it so long that you don't even have to think about it. I mean, in each case, that's the way that you're living all of this. remarkable stories and remarkable records of service to our community, and we all really appreciate that. We live absolutely these days in fractured times and with fractured communities and racial tensions and racial disparities that remain among, I think, our most significant concerns as we move further into 2021, the year that I guess will be known forever as the year after 2020. But these days, are you having feelings of hope or feelings of despair about race in the United States, and why? And Cynthia, you go first.
Ooh, me? Get the lawyer first. She knows how to talk about that.
It's both.
Both. Both. Yeah, I said COVID was a blessing and a curse for Stillman, and just like I mentioned before, when I go back to the history of the college, and I think about the courage that it took for Reverend Dr. Charles Stillman to step out and say, I want to start a school for black youth, and there was a lynching on the grounds of the church shortly thereafter. I think we're at a point now where you have that exposure of these issues, which Brian Stevenson is exposing all of these things, and COVID exposed all these disparities. And now people, because of technology, everybody can see it. It's been around for so long that people forget, and now it's just very visible. And we see the numbers of people dying. 100,000 African Americans have died from COVID. So we see all of this, and we just saw this weekend the NBA dedicated all of their games and scholarships and stuff through the All-Star game. So that gives me optimism that things that people respect and admire will help us overcome all of these other problems. And now that the problems are visible, we have to work together to solve them. And I think that helps bring us together, because now, I want to applaud Governor Ivey. She started an initiative last year called Alabama United. And she brought all of the African American leaders to Montgomery to talk about all of our problems. And she said, we haven't done a good job of solving these problems. We need you all to help us do that. And we broke into committees: economic development, education, even one on the perception of the state of Alabama because of its civil rights history. And we worked for a whole year on committees, weekly meetings, coming up with good programs and solutions, and she's choosing some to implement. So that gives me a lot of optimism that, the governor of Alabama is really sincere, and when she's asking for this type of program to address these issues that have been unaddressed for so long, that gives me a lot of hope, and optimism.
So I have hope, I have optimism, but I'm also a realist. And I think that some of what we're hearing now, some of the discourse that's around changing or rolling back voting rights, it's very disconcerting. I'm worried about it. And I'm worried because people are actually, public officials are actually saying that we need to change these laws or reverse these laws or these policies because we can't win if we don't. What you're saying is all of Americans should not have the right to vote. And if we allow that to happen, that's what bothers me. Those are the kinds of things that keep me up, and I worry about these things. I'm optimistic, however, that I have heard people who have called me, people who are white females, white males, who called me after the George Floyd murder and basically all of the riots and said, you know what, I'm deeply saddened and I'm concerned and I'm sorry. And I'm like, why are you sorry? You know, you didn't do this, but because we stood by. And so that gives me optimism and gives me hope. But on the other hand, I see all these other things happening, and it's a little discouraging. And frankly, I think universities have a role to play in ensuring that public policy and discourse around those things gets advanced to the level that people in our communities and in our states really understand what's happening.
I agree, and I think that the national conversations drive local conversations, and the local conversations are where universities come so significantly into play, because then we start having individual conversations, and that's when perhaps lives are changed and attitudes influenced. Thanks to each of you for really wonderful responses to a challenging question. I like to think, and I know we're about to run out of time for the interview, so the remaining questions that were on the list we're just going to have to save for another time. But I do want to get this one in because it gets to the relationships that our institutions can share. I like to think that higher education at its best is more collaborative than competitive. And I know we all have our unique institutional advantages and promote our institutions, and we got to make our business plans work and all of those things. But I like that collaborative word. And so any perhaps closing thoughts that each of you might have about how we might, for the benefit of our students, work more collaboratively together, not just our three institutions in Tuskegee, but across Alabama and elsewhere. How might we work better together collaboratively?
Well, I think because Stillman is primarily an undergraduate institution, that we look for partnerships to build a pipeline into your graduate and professional programs. So I think we have to be very deliberate about it, because we know the programs are open to our students. They have to apply. But what I found, and because Stillman is not outside of Alabama, not very many people have heard of Stillman. And so what I have to do, if my students apply for a program and you have a student from Tuskegee or Alabama A&M or Alabama State, they just don't get the same recognitions sometimes, you know, outside of the state or even sometimes within the state, because we're so small. So it would be helpful to have these specific slots reserved for a Stillman student at your institution here at Samford, you know, in various departments of their interest. Certainly our departments, I know our religion department works closely with yours, but you know, we could do that for other areas too. And that would be what I would think would be beneficial. We do that with our neighbor, University of Alabama. We've had a relationship with them since the 60s. So that's, you know, and we're expanding that relationship, but I'd like to expand similar relationships across the state with all of our institutions.
Ditto. Also, because my provost is here and she is the master at grant writing, and one of the things that I brought her to Miles to do was to bring in grants. There are a lot of grants that she sees out there that, you know, we're small. And so sometimes this is not the right fit for us. But if we have partners, it could very well be. And so I think working together more collaboratively on large grants would be ideal for us, in addition to the graduate program. I like that too. And whatever else she thinks, we'll come up with something, we'll send it to you.
Well, I think I have less than 120 days remaining as president of Samford University, so my promise can only extend so far, but I have every confidence that the person who will succeed me will want to work with you as well, and so we welcome all of that. In just a moment, we're going to present the man medals to these guests, but to my friend Bobby and my friend Cynthia, also known as President Warwick and President Knight, would you please applaud them for their great responses during this interview session? And now for our brief award presentation. The Man Medal is awarded through the Francis Marlin Mann Center for Ethics and Leadership to recognize individuals who have contributed to a more just and ethical world. The prestigious award may be given to an individual, group, or organization from any field or practice. The Man Medal is intended to recognize outstanding work that serves as an inspiration to others. In particular, the body of work recognized by this award must address a clear need or problem facing society and have achieved significance on a large scale. It is designed by the world-renowned artist Malcolm Greer. The Man Medal bears the sheaf of grain emblem, which symbolizes the need for leadership that cultivates a more just world. The medal is named in honor of Mr. and Mrs. Marvin Mann. Mr. Mann is a graduate of Samford and was an exemplar in the practice of ethical behavior, serving for many years as the CEO of Lexmark Incorporated and as chair of the board of Fidelity Investments. Our three recipients today, all from within the world of higher education, are women who represent well the highest standards of our profession. They lead, they inspire, they challenge, they persist, they triumph, and the world is better because of what they are doing and will do in the expansion of opportunities through the institutions and students they serve. In honoring these recipients, we also honor their institutions, Miles College, Stillman College, and Tuskegee University. Dr. Gregory, will you please join me this morning in the presentation of the Man Medals? And I would like to ask our recipients to come and stand here as we bestow these awards. The award, incidentally, this morning to President Lily McNair is offered in absentia. And Presidents Knight and Warwick, you are now official recipients of the Man Medal. Ladies and gentlemen, will you applaud these friends? They are empowered, and they are empowering others on their campuses and throughout the world today. And ladies, you now are Olympic champions. Congratulations. Thanks to each of you for your time with us this morning, and we're going to take a few photos, and we'll be together for a little bit, and I promise we will remask as we come into contact with you. Thank you very much for being here today.